Under the blazing Texas sun, traffic on Highway 83 came to an abrupt halt. Not because of an accident, but because of something far more unexpected. A tiny bobcat kitten, desperate and determined, blocked the road. The vehicles were trapped, and it was clear that something wasn't right. Officer Sarah Winters had responded to her fair share of wildlife calls, but this one felt different. As she slowly approached the trembling creature, she realized it wasn't just lost or injured, it was trying to communicate, as if it was waiting for someone to notice. The kitten's movements weren't random. They were deliberate, almost frantic, as it darted toward the road and then pulled back. Something was drawing the officer in. When Sarah saw the glint of metal strapped to the bobcat's leg, her instincts kicked in. There, on its hind leg, was a strange device. A small blue marker that didn't belong to any wildlife tracking system she had seen before. Sarah couldn't help but wonder, what was this little creature trying to tell her? Who or what was it leading her to? What started as a routine highway patrol would soon reveal a life-or-death mystery. Sarah's heart raced as she made the decision. She had to follow this bobcat wherever it might lead. This was no ordinary call. Something big was unfolding. The screech of tires on hot pavement, the flash of cameras, and the puzzled voices of motorists filled the air as Officer Sarah Winters pulled up to the scene. A small crowd had gathered on the shoulder of Highway 83, all eyes fixed on a tiny bobcat kitten in the middle of the road. The officer's boots hit the asphalt, and she immediately noticed the frantic energy of the little animal. It wasn't just crossing the road, it was darting back and forth, pausing only to retreat when a vehicle sped toward it. Something was off. A middle-aged man in a sweat-soaked Dallas Cowboys t-shirt approached her, shaking his head in disbelief. "It's been at it for 20 minutes, ma'am," he said, his voice tight with concern. "Runs out, then backs off. Almost caused a crash." Sarah's gaze fixed on the bobcat as it made another nervous dash toward the roadway before retreating once again. This wasn't normal behavior, even for a wild animal. Wild animals, especially bobcats, usually avoided roads. But this one? It seemed almost deliberate, as though it was trying to tell them something. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she watched the little creature pace back and forth. Every step, every retreat felt like a cry for help. Something wasn't right, and she knew deep down this wasn't just an ordinary wildlife call. This was the beginning of something far bigger. Just as Officer Sarah Winters was about to step closer to the bobcat, her eyes caught something that made her freeze. There, strapped to the animal's hind leg, was a small, shiny device. It wasn't like any collar or tracking tag she'd seen before. This was different. She squinted, instinctively reaching for her binoculars, and brought the object into focus. It had a blue marker that didn't belong to any standard wildlife tracking system. The realization hit her like a lightning bolt. This bobcat wasn't fully wild. It had been marked, but for what purpose? She stepped back, her instincts telling her to dig deeper. Without wasting time, she radioed in for backup and called Dr. Stephen Mitchell, a regional wildlife expert who dealt with enough strange cases to know what was truly out of the ordinary. Within minutes, Dr. Mitchell arrived, a seasoned professional with years of experience under his belt. Sarah briefed him quickly, pointing to the strange marker on the bobcat's leg. As he studied the device, Dr. Mitchell's brow furrowed. "This isn't one of ours," he muttered, scanning the tag through his binoculars. "It's an emergency location marker, usually used for hikers in distress." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. A hiker? She wasn't just dealing with a lost animal. She was about to uncover something much bigger. The air was thick with tension as Dr. Mitchell stared at the emergency marker on the bobcat's leg, his eyes narrowing in disbelief. He pulled out his phone, swiping through screens of data. "I just spoke with Fortress Ridge State Park," he said, his voice suddenly heavy. "They've had a missing hiker since yesterday, Robert Whitley. He checked in for a solo hike, but he missed his scheduled check-in last night. No one's heard from him since." Sarah's heart pounded as the pieces started to click together. The number on the marker matched Robert's campsite registration, the same initials, the same number, RW7734. A chill ran down her spine. "So you're telling me this bobcat, it's been tracking a missing hiker?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Mitchell nodded, a deep frown crossing his face. It's possible, he said slowly, but it's bizarre. Wild animals don't typically track humans unless there's a specific reason. They exchanged a look, both realizing that what had started as a strange wildlife incident was quickly turning into something far more urgent. Sarah's instincts were screaming at her. This bobcat wasn't just lost. It was leading them somewhere. We need to follow it, she said, determination setting in. If this bobcat knows where Robert is, we can't waste any more time. And with that, they set off, knowing they were on the verge of uncovering a life-or-death mystery. Without a moment's hesitation, Officer Winters made her decision. We're following it, she said, her voice steady but urgent. Dr. Mitchell gave a quick nod, pulling a search and rescue kit from his truck. Inside, it contained the essentials: basic first aid, water, emergency rations. But the most important item in Sarah's mind was the resolve they were about to need. The bobcat, having sensed their decision, turned and trotted confidently toward the tree line, glancing back every so often to ensure they were following. There was no hesitation in its movements, no wild darting off the trail like most wild animals would do. It was almost as if it knew exactly where it was going. Sarah and Dr. Mitchell followed closely behind, their footsteps muffled by the soft forest floor, the bobcat staying just out of reach, yet always in sight. The deeper they went into the woods, the more unnatural the bobcat's behavior seemed. It stayed on a clear path, weaving through the trees with precision, avoiding the underbrush that most animals would normally use for cover. As Sarah watched it move, a sense of awe washed over her. Wild animals didn't behave like this. This bobcat wasn't just leading them. It was guiding them with a purpose. The trees thickened, the air cooled, and every step forward felt like they were closing in on something monumental. The further they went, the more Sarah felt it. They were on the verge of something life-changing. The moment they reached the clearing, Sarah's heart skipped a beat. There, hidden beneath a massive fallen tree, lay the figure of a man, barely conscious, his face pale from exposure. Robert Whitley. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she rushed forward, her instincts kicking in. "Robert!" she called, her voice tight with urgency. The man stirred, raising a weak arm in a feeble wave. "I'm alive," he whispered hoarsely, but the pain was evident in his eyes. Nova, the bobcat, stood motionless by his side, her golden eyes watching the group intently, but showing no sign of aggression. In fact, she seemed almost protective, as though she understood the danger Robert was in. "Nova!" Robert's voice cracked with relief as he looked up, a faint smile crossing his face. "Good girl!" Sarah couldn't believe it. This was the same bobcat that had led them here, and now it was staying close, its presence a silent but comforting reassurance. As Dr. Mitchell assessed Robert's condition, it became clear that his leg was badly trapped, and he was suffering from dehydration and shock. But there was no panic in Nova, no fear. She remained calm, standing vigil as the team worked to free Robert. Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the bond between them. This bobcat wasn't just an animal, it was a lifeline, a companion who had risked everything to save the very person who had rehabilitated her. As the rescue team worked to free Robert from beneath the tree, he managed to muster the strength to explain his story, his voice strained but filled with gratitude. "I was tracking Nova," he began, his eyes softening as he looked at the bobcat. "She's part of my rehabilitation program. She's been with me since she was just a kitten. I've been training her to return to the wild, but she's never fully lost her connection to humans. That's why I had faith in her." Robert paused, wincing as pain shot through his trapped leg. "During the storm, she bolted. Lightning struck a tree near her. She ran as wild animals do, but the storm weakened the tree I was following her under." He let out a shaky breath. "I got caught. When I couldn't reach my emergency beacon, I attached a marker to Nova's collar and told her to find help. I hoped someone would notice her." Nova, who had been watching quietly, shifted closer, nudging Robert's hand gently. She hadn't left his side once. As the rescue team continued their work, Nova stayed close, her calm presence a quiet reminder of the deep bond between them. She wasn't just a wild animal. She was a lifeline, a companion who had led these strangers through the woods to save Robert's life. Her loyalty and instinct had turned a desperate situation into a miraculous rescue. Robert Whitley's recovery was nothing short of miraculous, but his gratitude wasn't just for the rescue team. It was for Nova, the bobcat who had saved his life. "She deserves recognition," Robert insisted, his voice strong despite his injuries. "She's more than just a wild animal. She's my partner, my hero," and the world agreed. Nova's story quickly went viral, capturing hearts across the nation. The incredible bond between a wildlife rehabilitator and his animal companion became a symbol of the power of human-animal relationships. Inspired by their experience, Robert and Dr. Mitchell launched a new program, Wildlife Ambassadors, aimed at educating the public about wildlife conservation through animals like Nova, those who couldn't be released but could still make a difference. The program's mission was simple: to teach people about the delicate balance of nature and the importance of preserving wildlife. Nova's story became the foundation of the program, helping to raise significant funds in public interest. She wasn't just a rescue cat anymore. She was a symbol of rehabilitation, hope, and second chances. As donations poured in, Nova became a figurehead for wildlife rehabilitation efforts everywhere. People from all walks of life came to learn about Nova, seeing her as a living testament to the power of compassion and care. Robert and Dr. Mitchell's program was off to a successful start, and Nova had found her true calling, teaching others about the wild world she once called home. 6 months after the dramatic rescue, Nova was no longer just a bobcat with a fascinating story. She had become the face of a movement. The newly opened Wildlife Conservation Center had welcomed Nova into their Wildlife Ambassador program, where visitors could learn firsthand about the incredible bond between humans and animals. People from all over the country came to see her, drawn by her remarkable tale of survival and the lessons she taught about the power of empathy, rehabilitation, and conservation. Officer Sarah Winters, now deeply connected to Nova's journey, visited the center, her heart swelling with pride. As she stood in front of Nova's habitat, watching the bobcat move gracefully through her space, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how much the case had changed her. What started as a routine wildlife call had grown into a life-altering experience that reshaped her understanding of human-animal connections. Robert and Nova's bond had bridged the gap between the wild and human worlds, proving that even animals with a troubled past could offer profound lessons. They weren't just saving lives, they were changing hearts and minds. For Sarah, the experience had opened her eyes to the possibility that the relationship between humans and wildlife could be more than just one of coexistence. It could be one of collaboration and understanding. As Nova gazed out at the crowd, her eyes seemed to say it all. The wild had its own wisdom to share, if only we took the time to listen. Nova, the bobcat who had once blocked traffic in a desperate bid to save a life, was now a symbol of something much larger: the unexpected ways wildlife could impact humans and spark meaningful change. From her remarkable rescue of Robert Whitley to becoming the face of a new wildlife conservation program, Nova had shown the world that animals weren't just passive parts of nature. They were active participants in the stories we tell about survival, compassion, and the bond we share with the natural world. As Sarah Winters stood in the Wildlife Center, watching Nova calmly observe the visitors through the glass, she felt a deep sense of awe. This bobcat had not only saved a life, but had also started a ripple effect, inspiring others to rethink their relationship with wildlife. Nova's journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. She was now teaching people of all ages about empathy, conservation, and the importance of rehabilitation, proving that animals have much more to offer than we often realize. As the crowd gathered around Nova's enclosure, she stared back with her wise golden eyes, eyes that seemed to say, "I've shown you the way. Now it's up to you to carry it forward." The impact of her actions would be felt for years to come, not just through the lessons she had taught, but through the hearts she had touched. Nova's legacy was only just beginning, and the world would be watching.